You are born somewhere east of the river, in a stretch of land the Egyptians call Medjay, where nothing grows unless you already know where to look. Your father teaches you to read the sand the way other men read faces. A depression here means water 2 days out. A broken line there means someone passed through recently, moving fast, moving scared. A man named Nakhti commands the border post where you're stationed. He is Egyptian, career military, the kind of officer who has spent enough years watching Medjay scouts work to trust your judgment before he trusts his own instincts. He does not treat you as an equal. He treats you as reliable, which in this line of work turns out to matter more. Years pass on that border. Then Egypt breaks in half. The north falls under Hyksos rule. Foreign kings sitting on Egyptian thrones and the Theban pharaohs in the south spend a generation trying to take it back. They need soldiers who can move through terrain their own infantry has never trained for, and they need archers who don't miss. Nakhti puts your name forward for something bigger than border patrol. You say yes before he finishes explaining what it costs. By 12, you can track a man across bare rock. By 16, you can put an arrow through a running animal at a distance most archers wouldn't attempt standing still. This is not a skill anyone here considers rare. It is simply what a person from Medjay knows how to do. Egypt does not care about you yet. Egypt does not know your name, your tribe, or the shape of the land you come from. That changes the first time a border patrol crosses paths with a group of Medjay archers and comes away impressed enough to report it upward. Word travels slowly, but it travels. Egyptian officials start hiring men from Medjay, first a handful, then more, to watch the frontier. You take the work because the pay is real and the alternative is not. You are given a Nubian bow, a post at the edge of Egyptian territory, and instructions that amount to one thing. Watch the desert and tell us what crosses it. You are good at this. Too good, in a way that starts to matter. You are not just watching for raiders anymore. You are watching foreigners, traders, wanderers, anyone Egypt considers worth tracking, and reporting back to men who will never invite you to eat at their table. You are paid by a country that uses your eyes and does not consider you one of its own. You learn to live inside that contradiction because there is no version of this work where it disappears. You fight in the campaigns that retake Egypt. Mose moves the army north along the river, taking towns as he goes, and by the time you reach the Hyksos capital at Avaris, this has stopped being a campaign and become a siege that will drag on for years. The city sits behind walls the Hyksos built to survive exactly this kind of war, so Egypt fights it from the water as much as the land, boats pushing along canals to choke the supply lines while archers hold position on the banks. You are one of those archers. You spend more nights than you can count with wet feet and a strung bow, waiting for movement on the walls that never quite comes. Then it comes all at once. When the breach finally happens, the fighting stops being lines and formations and becomes something closer to what you were trained for as a boy. Close, fast, house to house, no room for anyone to miss twice. You carry a wounded Egyptian soldier across open water under fire because leaving him is not a decision available to you, and you never learn his name. And it does not matter because by nightfall the city has fallen and you are still alive to think about it at all. There is no rest after Avaris. The south is not settled either. Kerma, the Nubian kingdom that armed itself in alliance with the Hyksos, has to be answered too. And this is the part of the war nobody explains to you beforehand, that you will end this campaign having killed men who could have been your own cousins if the border had fallen a different way a generation earlier. Medjay does not mean one side of that line. It never did. You carry that forward without ever fully making peace with it. After Avaris falls, the survivors run for a fortress called Sharuhan, far enough into foreign land that most soldiers assume the war has effectively ended. It has not. The siege at Sharuhan lasts 3 more years, grinding, unglamorous, the kind of war that does not make for good telling afterward because nothing about it is fast. You are there for most of it. Medjay units earn a name in these campaigns that outlast the fighting itself. You watch men beside you die in ways that have nothing to do with skill and everything to do with luck. And you keep your bow steady anyway because the alternative is worse for everyone behind you. When the Hyksos are finally driven out and Ahmose becomes king of a reunified Egypt, he does not forget who fought for him. He does something no Egyptian ruler has done before. He turns your people's service into an institution. Medjay stops being a word for a tribe from the eastern desert. It becomes a title, a rank, a position any man can hold if he earns it. Nubian or Egyptian both. This is the day everything changes and almost nothing feels different. You still carry the same bow. You still know the desert the way you always have. But the word for what you are has just outgrown the place you came from. And you don't yet understand what that costs until years later when you meet men who call themselves Medjay and have never once set foot in Medjay. Nakhti is given command of the new formal units. He requests you specifically. You are no longer a hired scout watching a border. You are Medjay, with a rank, a chain of command, and a purpose the state has written down in official records for the first time in your life. Your first posting under the new title is the one that will define the rest of your career. Across the river from Thebes, in a valley cut into dry cliffs where no farmer would ever build, the pharaohs have started hiding their tombs instead of building pyramids for them. Unimaginable wealth sealed into rock, meant to last the god-king through eternity. Someone has to keep it that way. You are assigned to guard the Valley of the Kings. The work is not glamorous, long, silent watches on cliff paths that lead nowhere. Anyone should be walking after dark. But the stakes are unlike anything you patrolled on the border. A man caught robbing a royal tomb does not face a fine or a beating. He faces execution. And so, in a different way, do you. If it happens on a watch that was yours, you start sleeping lighter than you ever have in your life. You also police Deir el Medina, the walled village where the artisans and stonecutters who build these tombs actually live. You know their faces. You know which ones drink too much, which ones are in debt, which ones might be tempted by what they carve into rock every day. A young painter named Senmut works on tomb decoration in the valley, a talented, restless kid who complains constantly about being underpaid for work that will outlast every pharaoh who ever ordered it. You warn him once, informally, after catching him near a sealed tomb entrance after hours with no good explanation. You let it go. He is not a thief. He is bored and unsupervised, and you recognize both of those things in yourself at his age. You remember his face. It will matter again. Years of this work earn you something the border never did. Real command. You are made captain of the Medjay for the region, answering to a chief of the Medjay named Nasamun, whose name will end up written into records that outlast both of you, though neither of you knows that yet. You now have other men's mistakes to carry, not just your own. A patrol misses a break in the cliff wall on your watch. Not Senmut, not anyone you know. And by the time it's discovered, a minor tomb has already been disturbed. You are the one who reports it upward. You are the one whose name goes into the record alongside the failure, even though your hands never touch the breach. This is what command actually costs. Not more danger to yourself, more exposure for every mistake that happens anywhere beneath you. The worst lesson comes later, and it has nothing to do with a breach you failed to stop. A mayor on the western side of the river, a man with far more standing than you will ever hold, is accused by his counterpart across the water of letting robbers into the royal tombs, or worse, profiting from it directly. You are the one who gathers half the evidence yourself. Testimony from workmen at Deir el Medina, marks on sealed doors that were not there the season before. The investigation gets handed to a commission. The mayor is placed on that commission himself. 17 workmen from the village you have policed for years are convicted and executed. The mayor is never charged. He keeps his position. His accuser disappears from the record entirely, and nobody above you ever explains why. You go back to your patrols the next morning because there is no version of this job where you get to stop. You have spent your whole career believing the law you enforce with your own hands applies the same way at every level. This is the first time you watch it not apply at all, and you carry that the same way you carried the wounded soldier out of Avaris without ever fully setting it down again. Decades pass this way. You train the next generation of Medjay the same way Nakhti once trained you. Judgment before instinct, patience before pride. Senmut is an old man now too, still painting. His best work sealed forever inside tombs. no living person besides thieves and priests will ever see again. You attend his funeral rites when he dies, an old debt from a young man you once chose not to ruin, quietly repaid by decades of a life he got to keep living. You grow old inside a title that has outlived the place it came from. Your grandchildren will call themselves Medjay too, and none of them will ever see the land in the eastern desert where the word actually began. The name has become bigger than its own origin, the way titles do when they work. Here is what the record does not tell you, because you will never live to read it. Sometime after your grandchildren's grandchildren are gone, the word Medjay simply stops appearing in Egyptian writing altogether. No decree ends it. No pharaoh disbands it. It is there in the records for generations, and then, quietly, it is not. No one who carried the title ever finds out why. Whether the force was renamed, absorbed, forgotten, or simply stopped being written down by scribes who had other things to record, nobody left an answer. An entire institution, built from nothing by men who once read sand for a living, guarding kings and their tombs for centuries, and history does not bother to record its own ending. You spent a life turning a word into something permanent. It outlived you by generations. Then it disappeared anyway, and nobody wrote down the day it happened.